All right, we're back this week with a movie that both me and Shane have never seen before. And
And there's
right
probably a good
before,
reason. Probably a
okay,
good
so
reason.
it's a good reason. Also, at the same time, I feel like it's a hidden gem. That's not a hidden gem, okay? But first of all, let me say this. This
How
is
can it be a hidden
probably
gem if it's not really a hidden
no.
gem?
See, let me explain. So this is probably one of the
So you say it's
saddest
fool's
movie,
gold.
I
Oh, so
guess.
you thought it was a sad movie?
So this is probably a sad movie that I didn't see this coming, okay? Because before I get to say why I thought this one was going to be a sad movie, because you and one of my film teachers have told me numerous times that in America, right, people go to the movies to get entertained. They
Yeah,
don't
well,
want to go into the movie and then not have
okay,
a
well,
good
just get
outcome.
on with it. Come on, just get
Okay,
on with it. We
so
talked about this sometimes, so I
yeah,
want to hear what you
so
say.
when I
What
saw
you got to say.
so when I saw this, right, and I'm thinking like, well, this is gonna end up okay at the end, right? And then at the end when it doesn't, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming at all. Did you?
Okay.
I didn't see this
No,
coming at
I
all.
said it's coming. And all because of a stupid little penny. He pulls out a penny and it ruins the whole movie. And then you think, well, maybe it's going to get better. So we watch, it doesn't get better. But it gets better. And then it never gets better. And finally he dies. And it's like he's all smiling when he dies because he gets to see it. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a happy ending? Because this is not a happy ending. This is a
So I
bunch of crap.
so I guess this is how you see it, right?
Who
Like this is
who
how
sees
you
it this
see
way?
it. I
You've
mean,
got to be a
I don't
sicko to
either.
see it this way.
I
Yeah.
don't
Anyway,
either.
so I mean, I'm sure the director saw it, and a lot of people. And I've heard this movie was a good. I knew it was a love movie before I
Yeah.
saw it. That's why I never saw it because I mean, it's Christopher Reeve's. I mean, it's got Jane Seymour, which I do love. See Jane Seymour,
Oh, she's
but
she's a very beautiful woman.
she's also awesome. She's also Dr. Quinn
It,
Medicine Woman, and she was in a James Bond movie.
she's a James
So
Bond movie, yes.
so how can you beat that?
You
I mean,
can't.
she saved like all of the America in the 1800s. So and she's
and
from England.
and well, Christopher, we played Superman. That's why I have this shirt on.
Yeah, whatever.
And
I got a
besides,
time travel T-shirt on, so
oh, I'm so glad you did. So, because we're gonna talk about that,
I'm
right?
glad somebody did. Well, it doesn't really. This is not real stuff, so it's
So
just
first of all, I want to talk about
it's
Christopher Reeve. Like
gibberish.
before this movie, he before he did this movie, he was only known for like I guess action movies because he's such a huge guy, right?
Was he? When was this movie made?
1979. It released in 1980.
Okay, see, that's what I thought. It was 1979 because the penny was in 1979. Man,
Yeah.
pennies will ruin your life, dude. When people go, "Hey, you want the change?" I'm like, "No."
So I want to touch on the same point. So when he get prepared to go back in time, right? You know, he did show you that he took some like modern coins out, but I guess he didn't get it all.
Well, apparently not. Nobody ever gets the pennies out. That's usually what you find in the washing machine or in the
Oh,
couches. Those
that
little dudes just go everywhere. Abraham Lincoln will get you. I tell you what. That's what you get. Somebody shot him. He's like, I'm gonna ruin
I wouldn't.
everybody.
Hey, it didn't end nicely for me, so it didn't end nicely for you, right?
Exactly. Took him out, dude.
So that thing bothered you too, didn't it?
Oh, it
Cause
did bother me. This was because it took. You know what bothered me? What it really made it because it like took him forever to finally get into the what 1910 whatever it is
1912.
1912. Okay. 1912, early in there. It took him forever. The movie just goes on and drags out until he finally gets there, and then you get happy because he's like, oh, he found this girl. She finally likes him. They like each other. And then he pulls a penny out and it ruins it. And then he's like in a depression and he dies.
Yeah,
He dies of a broken heart.
so yeah, he dies of a broken heart. So that's the other thing I want to talk
No,
about
he didn't really eat.
because
You
you
know, that,
mentioned you mentioned that like, hey, it brings you back up for hope, right? So you know where my hope was when when Superman went to see I guess her caretaker.
yeah.
So because you said she
Oh,
just
it's
disappeared.
probably her housekeeper.
Okay, her housekeeper, right? Because she said she she lost it the day she disappeared.
No, she died.
Oh, did she say she died? Although she said she
No, she didn't
disappeared.
disappear. It disappeared. The
Oh,
watch
it
disappeared.
disappeared. Okay.
She said because basically that lady had that watch all the time, and the housekeeper apparently saw her with the watch all the time. And then one day, when she died, they thought, "Well, we'll find the watch." Well, they didn't find the watch, but she died.
So that
So
was
she died. She died. She went home and died that night.
so the watch is the thing that traveled through time, right? Because she gave it back to him in
Well,
1972.
well, it time travel through time the same way that all your toys and stuff behind you travel through time. Yes.
Yes, yes, thank you. So he gave it to her, which is the weird thing, right? He's the one
No,
who
this
gave it
is
to her, and then
yeah.
she's the one
This
who
is
gave it to him.
yeah. This is a weird thing. It's like Terminator
Okay, explain.
because in order for all this to happen, something had to happen in the past. I mean, he had to come from somewhere. He couldn't just come to the future, go to the past. I mean, the past, you got to start somewhere. There's got to be a starting point in the past.
That always sounds confusing.
It sounds confusing, but it is confusing
Wait,
because apparently
wait.
they couldn't get it.
So basically, you're trying to say, where did this watch come from originally?
Well, the problem is, what is this? Was this a really time travel movie, or was this a dream movie? Did he just dream stuff?
I'm so glad you mentioned, because I was going to also bring that.
Because he may never even time traveled, really.
Because I don't know, did you read any like notes on this at all?
No, I didn't read any notes. But here's what my deal is.
Okay.
She may have saw him, and he looked like somebody she met way back in the past that got ran off. She probably met this guy, fell in love, because we already know her story.
Yes.
You know, she's this girl that she meets Ben, but her boss or her daddy or whatever the guy is, her manager.
Which is played by...
Yeah, General Chang. General Chang.
General Chang.
From Star Trek, I mean.
Yes, it's played by Jeannot Szwarc.
Okay, anyways. But I mean, come on. Later on, he gets an eye patch and he tries to kill Captain Kirk. Okay?
Hey, you know what? I'm going to name this episode Superman, Medicine Woman, and Jeannot Szwarc. Because that's basically all it is.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, I'm sure there was some other... Because William H. Macy, I think... No, he wasn't. There's somebody else.
No, William H. Macy. But I think the guy who plays...
But anyhow...
I recognize him.
But anyhow...
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize that dude too. Yeah. That old dude's in a lot of stuff, and he never gets old. He just, yes. But he started off old and old. Okay, but anyways, she met some guy, and I'm sure he ran him off. And then later on, she sees this guy because she probably goes to plays because she was an actress and remembers the good old days, and sees this dude, and she's like, "Huh, that's him. That's him."
Oh, when did she ask that question?
Yeah, and so she walks up there and hands him that pocket watch. Yeah. I mean, I already know I'm wrong, but anyway, she hands him a pocket watch and tells him to come find her.
Yes, to come find her. Yep.
So she planted something in his head, because I mean that would have had a pretty good effect on you. Because think about it, he's carrying that watch around with him everywhere.
Yes, he had that.
And then 8 years later, he goes looking for her. He just happens upon the spot. I mean, come on, just random, all kinds of crap happen. He goes back to where he went to college, stays at the hotel, sees a picture of this beautiful woman. I had the same problem he has, but I usually don't try to go back to see those women. Well, maybe I should. I don't know. But anyhow, I see that chick, and it's like, wow. And then he remembers a history book. It's just probably a bunch of deals, and then he thinks so hard
that he thinks,
hypnotizes him and thinks he goes back in time. Because I mean, I can even do that. No way. I mean, there's times where I can see like a certain light or I can see a certain smell. And if you just think about it hard, you can actually go back to another point in your life sometimes.
Oh,
yes, be there.
I highly
agree. But you can't really touch anything.
Especially,
you can't do anything. But you can look around and see the way something was way back a long time ago.
So subconsciously. Yes.
Yeah, it's like you're in your head still. But I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of people think if you do time travel, that's the only way. But if you're going to time travel to me in your head, and maybe it's possible, I don't think you can affect anything. But you can only do it if your body's been there before.
Oh, kind of like Days of the Future Past. We talked about
exactly, because Wolverine's always been there, so he can go back to his past self. But if Wolverine wasn't there, no other X-Men can, because they weren't born yet.
Yeah.
You know, only him, because man, he's so old as crap. But that's the only reason he can go back. But anyways, so the whole thing is this guy got in a trance, and then when the trance got broken by something happens in his dream or in his trance, if something woke him up out of it, he just couldn't get past it, quit eating, and died.
Well, so
and the thing is, here's the thing: when he starts to die,
yeah,
they say that you see all kinds of stuff. Like usually, you know this, but they usually say you see your life from then going all the way back to when you're young, and then you stops. But anyhow, that's what he saw. He saw her. So I'm like, that's not a happy ending. You're dead.
So
and you never even you only spent like a day with her. Even if it was time travel, it was only like 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days.
Yeah, spent a few days with her. I'm like, what kind of crap is this? Because I think even if it's time travel, she spent her entire life waiting for this dude.
It's a classical love story, so it's back in that time.
Classical? What's classical about it? I mean, this is a horrible love story.
Well, I say classical because that's
poor lady
for that time period.
That poor lady.
It's written for that time
suffered.
period.
While he
Hey,
was
hey,
young in college and having girlfriends and getting kisses from other girls and stuff. What kind of crap that dude
hey, you
was
know what?
just
He was only committed to that one woman, okay? He went back in time
after
for her, okay?
after he saw her picture.
It's very, yeah, like you're right. It's very
Now, come
terminated.
on, he starts off he has a girlfriend and all kinds of and these other girls, girls kissing on him. Come on.
It is very terminated in that aspect. And the other thing I want to bring up is since you haven't read it, right? Like, I was just watching that Australian guy. He actually did a video on this 3 years ago, okay? And one of the things he mentioned is this is obviously based on a book, which is
Yeah.
written by the
Well,
same guy who wrote the screenplay, right? But in the book,
oh really?
he actually he was suffering from a brain tumor. So the idea was like maybe he had this like hallucination. He didn't really go back in time. He
Oh.
just dreamed
So
the whole
so he had a
thing.
brain tumor, so he almost got magical powers like John Travolta.
Oh yes.
No, he didn't. Because
No, no,
John
no. But like,
Travolta did, but didn't just John Travolta dream
but it
everything?
makes the audience think that he had the brain tumor, right? So he probably dreamt the whole thing, and towards where he's about to be, be, I guess I don't want to say terminated. It's a terminated thing. Right before he died, that's when he woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the pocket watch.
No.
That's why I said a while ago I'm wrong about this because he doesn't have the pocket watch. So he took the pocket watch to her, but she gave him a pocket watch. He took the pocket watch back, but somewhere the pocket watch had exists. Since the pocket watch was so nice, it came from her time period.
Yes. No one ever talked about that. It came from her time period, which is,
Because look how nice it was.
you know what? It's hard to determine.
In 1979, most
Yeah.
people didn't carry pocket watches. That wasn't a normal thing.
Well, that's why I was like, I guess in 1912 they carried pocket watches, right?
Yes.
'Cause when I was watching
in the 1800s, they carried pocket watches.
Okay.
Most pocket watches were so expensive and stuff that people passed them down. You know, like your dad had one, he'd give it to you, you'd give it to your son.
Oh.
I mean, a lot of them vanished or weren't taken care of because, watches come along and people are like, who needs a stick pocket watch?
See, it's so funny when you mentioned that. I was watching I was watching this movie, and Heather was watching like bits and pieces with me, right? And then the part where like Christopher Reeve wake up from that little outdoor patio furniture, he took out his pocket watch. This is when I say to Heather, like, man, it must have been mind blowing, right? When they started putting watches on Whisk, like, oh my god, look at this.
Well, it wasn't that mind blowing because people tried that on and off, make a little leather band. It's just the watch was
It was
too
too
big.
big, yeah, for the mechanical and everything.
And then and the thing is, even when hand watches come along, people's mind was blown until Japan started making little ones, Casios and all that crap. Well, because it got cheap.
Yeah.
And everybody could get one.
You know what? Now
me and you lived in the time where we could just go to Walmart or
get a
before that,
$10
like Target or Kmart or whatever the store you got. Yeah, you get one when you're a kid.
Yep.
They'd have like a stupid little character like.
You know what's really funny? Like it was like $10 back
Joe.
then when we were kids, right? It's still $10 now, and there's no improvement on that watch. It's like either the one that you put a little battery in runs the same way they did 30 years ago. You would figure that those would be
it'd be just like that one that what Iron Man wore,
So I want to bring the pocket watch back. So now this can we call that a MacGuffin? It's not really a big deal, but that's
it's kind of a MacGuffin, but it wasn't a thing. It was just a thing. It was just a link.
It's a link to the whole movie.
But it wasn't really MacGuffin because nobody was after it or anything.
I like that it's the watch, right? And this would you consider this a time travel movie?
Well, I'd say it is a time travel because it has one giant aspect. He travels back to time. He even talks to a professor that wrote a book on time travel.
And then you know what? She kept reading it. Remember, her housekeeper said that she read that time travel book so many times, dude.
To see how she could get him back.
I thought she was gonna come back, I guess not come back.
Well, I figured he was
in a way.
I figured he was just go back to the back. I thought he'd go back to the past. See, and in the loop, the time loop.
See, I thought about that too, and I was like, "How was he going to do it?"
But if he dies, that's the end of the time loop. So how could she have wanted to do all this over again? There was a starting point, but somewhere that each time this has happened, it had to go differently.
So you believe that it happens multiple times, right?
So so most likely the time that before she sees him when she's old, he may have spent more time with her.
He may have spent more time with her.
Yeah, matter of fact, way back then, she may have bought the watch for him at one point in time.
Oh, so you're saying kind of like Edge of Tomorrow. This is not the first.
Yeah, for all we know. Yeah, this can't be the first time because it doesn't work there's no way it could work that way.
So you
The
saying
watch had to come from somewhere.
So you could say that the original
the
watch came from her.
The future can never become. The future can never go before the past.
Well, yeah, yeah.
All the future is going to have to be determined by the past.
So this could like been the 26th time.
Yeah, this could be the 26th time, and finally him dying.
Wait, maybe you know what? Maybe the final time he could have told her, "Hey, don't grab coins from your pocket."
Well, I mean, he's not Data, so he couldn't type it in and remember it each time.
No, I mean, she saw what happened, right? Like,
what do you mean?
Think about that scene when he picked up the coin. She knows that he was staring at the coin.
She may not have. He was joking about coins and stuff, but she may not grasp that. Remember, because
no. But she could say instead of a coin, "Hey, don't look for things in your pocket."
Well, she didn't say nothing. Okay, she just handed him the deal and said, "Come back to her," because it's been like a long time. She probably was so. I mean, it's so amazing he disappeared. But you got to think each time it could have happened. But most likely, with her money or something, she probably bought him or gifted him the pocket watch at one point in time. And then she dies. He comes looking for her, spends a little more time. Maybe he lived. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. The time travel loop doesn't make any sense.
No, did you like how he time traveled back in time though?
No, I don't.
Okay, good, because I had a problem with that.
He should have got a DeLorean, dude.
Or a time machine.
Wait, a DeLorean didn't exist.
But you know what though? Even though you and I don't agree on that, right? But then, however he traveled back in time, he woke up in that space, right?
But I mean, that time travel method kind of I mean, it makes sense. But how can I mean, you're not going to manifest a body in another time.
Yeah, we try.
You would have to bring it. You would have to bring that body with you back.
Yeah, we're thinking about too much of the science, so yeah.
Yeah. Your brain, you can't transfer your brain or your memories into a nothingness.
So most of that thing makes sense is that maybe he did have a brain tumor.
Maybe he did. Where did the old lady with the watch come from, though?
Coincidence.
I guess it goes the way I said. He looked familiar. Because you see people that look familiar all the time. Because people think Keanu Reeves is a vampire. There's thousands of dudes that look Keanu Reeves.
You know what's so crazy, though? Like, when Arthur first asked him, right? Like, when he first gets to the hotel, Arthur asked him, like, have we met before? Right away. Right. Because we kind of knew this was a time travel movie, right? We already knew that he's going to go back or somehow.
That's why we watched it.
Yes.
And plus, it's kind of in the title.
Did you think that if we weren't going to do this, we would ever watch this movie?
I mean, if you didn't suggest it, I would never watch this movie.
Well, because we were looking for things.
And after you suggested, I was like, oh yeah, Jane Seymour's in that movie. I'll watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, Christopher Reeve is in the movie, so I'll watch it too.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, besides this movie, I don't think I ever seen Christopher Reeve in another movie besides Superman. I mean, because he was I
seem like I saw him in something else.
I mean, I seen him in Smallville, but that's still like a Superman thing.
Well, I've seen him in something else, but let me put it this way: other than Superman, I would never watch. I mean, I'm not really a huge Christopher Reeve fan.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge Christopher Reeve fan, right? But I'm a huge Superman fan, and I like Christopher Reeve a lot. Just because he plays Superman. Like,
not really.
But then since I was a kid, though, so I still like Christopher Reeve. And throughout a lot of shots in this movie, right? You know what I realized? I'm like, then I realized like how much Tom Welling looks so much like Christopher Reeve. Because his jawline and his facial features, right? I can see Tom Welling, and I can see why, your favorite company in the world, Warner Brothers, picked him to play Superman. They had to ask him multiple times.
No,
Tom Welling actually turned this role down several times.
No, that's not I'm just saying that's not my favorite company. Don't even joke about that.
I was just being sarcastic.
Don't even joke about that. Actually, I like Warner Bros. I'm not a big fan of DC Comics. I like Batman. Batman's awesome. Superman.
It's kind of like you don't like how they handle that.
It's got some weird comic, but no, his comic books aren't really all that great.
Man, you're not all that great.
Have you read any Superman comics, especially in the 80s?
Yeah. Oh, not the 80s.
Oh, okay.
No. I only read
there's some real gems in there.
I only read the ones I want to read.
The sad thing is though, I can't even say I like Batman, but I didn't like Batman, the comic book.
Oh, Batman
comic. I like Detective Comics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you read Detective Comics, the other title with Batman in it.
Hey, I want to get off this subject. I'm gonna get off the subject somewhere in time, right? Since Christopher Reeve plays Superman in the 80s, and I'm not familiar with any like big famous actors, or even not even famous, right? All I know is just the action stars. Who would you have played Batman along with Christopher Reeve, in your opinion?
Oh,
Because
wow, that's
you probably
hard.
thought of that when you saw Batman. Like, you probably wanted Batman
No, I
too.
didn't. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
think about that.
Oh,
No, didn't. That didn't cross my mind. I was too amazed with Superman because I didn't think I didn't do superheroes then.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I got into comic books later on. The
That's a
only
good
reason I got into
question, though,
comic
huh?
books, the only reason yeah, that's a good question because I mean, like, who would have done? But no, when Superman came out, I was a Superman fan.
Okay.
But I've never seen anything like that. This guy
Cause
gets up, he flies, he's super strong. I'm like, that's amazing.
yeah.
But I never read any comic books either. But again,
Oh, okay.
also, then I go back, play with my Star Wars toys, and eventually I got to GI Joe, and I got comic
Oh,
books of GI Joe.
that's a good
That's what
point.
led to it. I had GI Joe comic books, and to get the GI Joe comic books, my parents bought me like a set of comic books, Marvel comic books, and
Oh.
and that's how I read. I had Iron Man in it, X-Men, New Mutants, Cloak and Dagger. Well, it's New Mutants with Cloak and Dagger. That's what it
Wow.
was. I can't remember all. I remember, and they had Daredevil. That's all. I remember all the issues because I think I still got most of those comics. Still.
Oh, wow. You know what?
Actually, I still have all those that came in that set, plus
Dude,
the GI Joes.
I love this story. I can't believe that 2 years we've been doing this is the first time I'm hearing about this, okay? But also, when you said that, it made me realize that, hey, when I watched Superman, I didn't read any comic books either because it was in the
Yeah.
80s, right? And then it wasn't until 89 I came to this country, and it wasn't until 1990 where me and my cousin walked to the local comic book store and then start hanging out there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what got me into comic books. So of course
Oh,
I saw Marvel. I was into Iron Man first and all that. And
okay.
then of course I watched the cartoons and I watched the Super Friends with the DC comics and they were neat. I thought Batman was neat, but I
Yeah.
wasn't really a Batman fan.
Oh,
But it wasn't
until
until Michael
later.
Keaton came out
So,
and I thought this is awesome. Then I went to the store and just started buying nothing but Batman comics.
so that's the other thing. So when Batman came out, right, I feel like maybe
Yeah, but I was
because
always X-Men.
right,
Awesome.
but then like I was thinking like maybe they only can do Superman in the 80s, right? And then like when 90s came along, like in 89 when Batman came out, because all the success from
Yeah,
Superman,
it's
and they
funny.
didn't want to do it
It's
again.
funny we're talking all about all this comic book stuff, but yeah, well, you gotta think nobody made superhero movies like that. Man, that was
No.
that was like in that time in the 80s, the Superman movies was like Iron Man. Now
Yes. Oh, when
it
the Iron
could
Man
kick
first came
it
out,
could
yeah.
kick something up. It's this thing that makes people slowly realize you could make a lot of money on superhero movies.
Right, and that was
But
before.
nobody else seemed to be able to do it.
No.
Until Batman was, Batman came out, and Batman was a game changer too.
Oh, it was, yeah. Because I enjoy. Obviously, you and I both enjoy the first Batman
So,
a lot.
so I mean, even though we're hating on Warner Brothers, you got to think Warner Brothers is what made
Superhero
this.
genres,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's what's pretty much stopped it. I mean, there was Superman's way back in the Batman's the way back in
Yeah.
Captain America's, but it's now what
When
we
they-
get now. What Disney's putting out on the screen now is because of Batman and some to an extent Superman.
I'm so
But we
glad
should say that
Christopher Reeve's in this movie.
So we should save this for that. But
We should.
yeah.
But like,
But anyways, so let's get back to time travel.
so on this movie, right? So right when I find out this is a really sad movie, this is when I liked it even more. Right when I found
more?
because like
So you like this movie?
I do because like
I do not like this.
I like
movie.
this better than like a lot of movies that we crap on. We compare them to.
Oh yeah. Well, let's put it this way. Yeah, I mean, this was. I won't watch this again now.
I won't watch it again.
Too
Like,
slow
unless
and stuff.
it is very slow, and I'm thinking like
But the only way I'll watch it,
long.
the only way I'll watch it, somebody goes, "Oh, you gotta watch Matrix 4," and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm watching this." Or somebody goes, "Hey, you watch Howard the Duck?" I'll be like, "No,
I'm gonna
I'm
watch
busy
some
watching.
time.
I'm watching Superman and Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. I'm sorry." I will even watch this before I will watch Batman and Robin.
You know what's really funny? Every time you say Dr. Quinn or Medicine Woman, or anytime they say Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, I just think about Talladega Nights. I always think about Talladega Nights, Dr. Quinn, and Medicine Woman.
Medicine
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, Walker, Texas. That's what if I had two daughters, that's what mine would be. Mine would be Dr. Quinn and
And
Medicine,
Medicine
Woman.
Woman.
Hey, Medicine Woman, get over here. Hey, tell your sister, Dr. Quinn, to leave you alone.
Well, I guess would you consider this a big cast back then at this time? Like Christopher
think
Reeve,
so.
Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer.
I'd say it is. I'd say it is because you made Christopher Plummer was pretty big way back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I recognize him
I
immediately.
mean, he was a good actor in our time, but he wasn't a well known by the name. You go, Christopher Plummer, people are like,
Yeah,
but
who?
everybody go, yeah, I know that guy. When they see him on the screen, they're like, yeah, I know this dude.
A lot of famous people named Christopher back then, huh? Christopher Lloyd, Christopher Reeve, Christopher
Well,
Plummer,
hey,
Christopher Columbus.
if you want your kid to be famous,
Can you name him Christopher?
yeah. But my brother didn't become an actor, and his name's Christopher. So
Hey, how can we forget one of the Christopher? You know, Christopher Grace, Topher Grace.
his name is Christopher.
He's just you didn't know that because he used Topher instead of
Oh.
Christopher. Because I always wonder, like,
Well,
what kind of name is Topher?
I don't like old Tofu Boy, so we'll just keep on moving because that guy.
I'm not a big fan either.
Don't make some. Really, I mean, yeah, they should make him a villain. If they would make him a villain, he'd be a good villain because we already hate him.
The only movie I liked him in was Interstellar.
I didn't really like him in Interstellar
Because he had a small part, and that was he only played enough, right? And then that was it. That's all I can take. And like, oh, good, he's out.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Was funny. That's the only thing.
I was like, what are you doing hanging around with?
I mean, like, the only reason why I hate him even more because he played Venom. I mean, if he'd done it right, I wouldn't have hated him as much.
He didn't do it very good.
But then that's not the actor's fault. But then that's the same way you feel about, I guess, DC and Warner Brothers.
How broccoli. I feel about it's the same way I feel about broccoli.
I don't know how suddenly we got to the subject of food again.
Well, no, we didn't get to the subject of food because broccoli technically is not a food; it's like a weed or something.
Oh, okay.
And people try to make it, and people eat it. People eat weeds and grass all the time. But I'm like, you're naming something you hate. I wanted to pull something out of my heart that I hated. It was broccoli.
Hey, so let's get back to the movie because I do want to talk about Christopher Reeve's suit, right? When he wore that, like just because he think he's going back to 1912.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny.
Because he thought people wore that in 1912.
And then that's the same way I feel in Back to the Future 3, right? When Marty put that, what is that outfit?
Which one? Oh, yeah.
The cowboy
yeah, you're talking
outfit?
about, yeah. Well, wasn't his idea.
No, it was Doc Brown's idea, yeah.
Doc Brown, because Doc Brown grew up in the they're in the 50s, and that's what cowboys look like in the 50s.
Yeah, in the shows, he's like,
movies,
what?
you know? And not all cowboys, if you watch a lot of westerns, they didn't all look like that, but like people that's grown up or young or stuff. You had Roy Rogers and all them. They the singing cowboys, and they always wear all that stuff. Plus, all the stuff was in black and white, so you didn't really see how
the colors were. Yeah, and the other thing is like people actually kind of make fun of his suit.
But the problem is you got to think. But you got to also think that Marty McFly, he still looked funny when he went back in time because when he gets his regular cowboy clothes on, he tries to dress like Clint Eastwood from a spaghetti western.
Yes,
filmed in the 70s. He still doesn't look really western. He looks kind of goofy.
Yes.
Even to those guys, they're like, what is this? And he's thinking, oh, I look like a real western because I look like Clint Eastwood.
The other thing that bothers me a little bit is like, hey, don't they need to change or like, don't they need to shower or bath?
That's the thing that bothered me. That's funny because because he sweated so much. I thought that dude's got the stink.
He's got a stink,
so big.
Right? But
he does. He's sleeping on the patio one day.
But then then, even in the 1800s, I mean, this is 1912. People used to stink back then, right? Like,
people didn't take baths.
Yeah,
people didn't take baths all the time because you got to think, unless you had a really nice room, because it shows him go shave. He had to go shave in another room. They didn't have all that in your room.
No, you had to go to a special room.
You had to go somewhere if you're going to take a bath or stuff. They had bath houses and stuff. That wasn't it wasn't impossible to take a bath. People took baths, but it wasn't that common because even this time, unless if you lived out in the country, you're still using the outhouses.
Yes, exactly. So that bothers me a little bit.
And electricity is still pretty new.
Electricity is new, and I guess even she had
it's not that new. I mean, but you saw the knobs and the wiring's got the cloth on it.
I mean, Miss McKenna had a nice room, but I don't think there was a bath or shower in that room. It's just
a sleeping
room and like a living room area.
Yeah, they may have had bath.
But they probably had perfume because she's a rich
lady. Because it looked like the room he went to when he finds himself there had a bathroom.
Oh, okay.
They may have in certain rings where they had plumbing.
It just bothers me. His suit, like, did his hat? No, his hat was fine. I guess that's appropriate.
Yeah, a bowler hat. Right? I think he was still a little early on the hat too. The hat was. I think the bowlers kind of went out.
Oh, at that time, I don't know about fashion because I wasn't sure about his suit.
I don't think bowlers were around either.
Ah.
But I mean, 1912, I don't know because I know they weren't real. I mean, a lot of people everybody wore hats all the way up to the 50s,
Hey,
60s,
so what was Tom
but
Cruise
they didn't
in
wear bowler
Falling Away?
hats.
Was he wearing a bowler hat?
Yeah, but that's turn of the century. Everybody wore a bowler hat then.
Turn of the century. Okay.
Yeah, like 1800s and into the very beginning of the
Or
1900s.
1900s.
People
It was wearing a
wore
bowler hat.
bowler hats. Yeah, because you got to remember in Time Machine, the
They were.
second
Oh,
one.
that's right.
Remember when he goes, "I'm gonna walk down the street and knock everybody's bowlers off."
Yeah, Guy Pearce. I do remember that.
I don't know when the bowler went out because the hats is usually eventually changed to Stetson stuff like Indiana Jones wore.
Yes, the fedora.
Well,
right?
not fedora hats and stuff, but that's like 1920s. And
It's
stuff.
basically the same design, but they just call it a fedora. Right? It's
Yeah.
the same kind
Well,
of
it's not a bowler.
It's not a
Bowler's
bowler.
round.
Yeah.
No, a fedora is almost like a Western hat.
Design,
in a
I
way.
mean, like, it's still
But it's for city
the
folks.
thing's just all the way around. Yeah,
Well, you're always gonna have a brim.
yeah, a brim. Thank you.
There's not much of a brim on a bowler hat.
No, I guess I'm comparing, like,
But a lot of people
no,
have top
not
hats
much.
too.
So it makes me think, like, what is the point of wearing a bowler hat? Right? I wear
Well,
baseball
I mean,
cap.
who knows? They just made them shorter because I mean, you still had Western hats, sombreros, all that other stuff. The hats was long brims. They just got shorter for people in the city because for some reason you
Oh.
wore hair. I don't know. Probably because you didn't have any hair. Is you need a hat.
Oh no, I was just thinking when you make that point of the city, right? They shorten the sombrero so because there's so many people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your hat is hitting everything.
I don't. Well, I'm talking about more like it should say Western hats.
Kind of like when you tell me about Longhorns, like, dude, they stab everything and they just get in the way of the stupid cow.
It's just accident. I mean, it's got these long horns. It's like, hey, I wish these things would fall off so I can go places.
I'm so glad you found out about the wardrobe too, because I feel like he's the only one that stood out in the whole
Well,
motel.
it just drove me
hotel.
crazy though that he's sweating and he's sweating and he's sweating and he never takes a shower. I'm like, dude, but he probably used washcloth when he was in
Yeah,
there.
they use washcloths and stuff. Yeah,
But he needed to clean that suit.
and then like I didn't know how much money he bought.
And think
back
about
then.
it when he's like sitting on the bench and he finds her. Remember when he gets tied up and he's thrown in the horse deal?
Yeah.
You
That's
know he
how they
stinks.
take
I don't
care
know
of
if you've been
farmers back
around.
then.
I don't know if you've been around horses, but in a horse barn, there is manure everywhere. It's in dust, and he's rolling around in it. So
Yeah.
you know he stunk so bad.
I like that's how they take care of the problem, you know. Like Christopher Reeve is a big, tall guy, right? He's like
Yeah.
6'4", and
No,
they had
those
to
guys-
two guys beat him up
Yeah, two guys are beating the crap out of Superman.
just to tie him up and put him on the ball.
Yeah, put him in. Well, where else? Where do you hide your people?
I
that you
had
try to
no
get rid of?
idea. I didn't know
I
where
st-
they were gonna take him. I thought they were gonna
I
throw him
stick-
on a train.
I stick them in a hog pen, but that's just me.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were going. I thought they were gonna kill him.
Well, I didn't know. Well, they thought about. Well, they just wanted him out of the way long enough for her to leave.
For them to leave to go to Seattle.
But she was like,
or
you know
whatever.
what, Christopher Plummer, General Chang, I ain't leaving.
Oh man. What was the other thing? You know what? Oh well, no, he bought that. I was gonna complain about the coins, but he was trying to bring coins from 1912, and that's why he asked that guy. So I
Yeah,
did
well,
like they
he's-
covered those bases, like in those.
Yeah, he
little
tried to do
scenes.
everything he could to make himself in that time.
Yeah, even the coins.
And I knew
money.
I knew he's gonna get rid of the tape recorder eventually because I'm like, you can't do that.
That's when he realized, like, why would I?
Because
need
even
to do
hearing
that?
your own voice over and over again. What? Sorry, wrong.
I do like that he tried with a tape.
I mean,
recorder.
the method of time travel was interesting. It's just, and the whole story's interesting. It just doesn't make any sense time travel wise.
Hey, this is the beginning of the 80s, right? It's once they figure out, like, hey, no one questioned the
Well,
time
it's like
travel
it's
method.
exactly like the Terminator. That loop doesn't make any sense
That loop doesn't make any sense, even if it's
'Cause everybody-
possible. The loop
because there's
doesn't
no
make any
way.
sense.
Because that means the first Kyle Reese was actually. That means whoever John Connor's real dad was, his real first dad had to be from. That time from the 80s.
I want to point out is because you're saying that this makes no sense, right? Actually, time travel, the whole subject of it makes no sense, right?
Well, it's got to make some kind of sense.
So it's got to
if
make
it's
some
going to
kind
be
of sense.
possible. If it's going to be
If it's
possible.
going to be possible, because now I thought of something to talk to you about. Like, I was going to bring up the point, like, hey, time travel makes no sense. Because we talk about if you disrupt a time, it creates a alternate timeline, right? Now I'm thinking about it, I could say that doesn't make any sense either. I could also argue a point to where alternate timelines cannot exist if you go back at that moment in time to fix it. What we want to think is it branches off, right? And then even if you fix it, it branches off and then it comes off to a different one. And I'm saying that if you disrupt it before it can branch off, and I'm saying that you could cut that alternative timeline off right there. But then we could all go.
No,
like,
you can't.
No,
you
see,
can't.
no, see what I'm saying? You're saying you can't, right? I'm like, you don't know you can't. It's possible. Do you know? Can you prove it? No, we can't.
But it
All
would
we
make
can
more.
do is
But it makes sense that you can't.
Yeah, it makes more
It
sense.
makes more sense because I mean, as soon as you get in another time, you've already changed something.
Because that's what we want to believe. Because it makes
and
sense.
then you go, "Oh, I'm going to fix it." I'm like, "You'll never go back into it unless you have a machine that will set you back into it."
Yes, thank you. Back to the Future too.
No, you can go back in your regular timeline, but it's going to have to be forward. You can't
Before
like go back.
Yeah.
And you,
No.
Yeah, as soon as you.
No, I'm
you're
talking
going to be
about
after you left.
No, I'm talking about old Biff cannot go back to the time that he came from, like the future that he came from.
No, I can't.
No, you can't see. That's what I'm saying. That's what you pointed out, and that's what I was
Not really.
making fun of in a way.
Not unless he knows Ant-Man.
But you know what I believe though? Like, let's just talk about that Biff part, right? I think I talked about it, so I'm gonna talk about it again, even if I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're putting Back to the Future in there.
Hey, you know what? Some people may not see this for the first time. So I'm thinking if Biff have traveled from that moment that he left, then I think from that moment in time, it's possible to go back into that time he came from. But if he went back to if he didn't go back until Marty came back into the 80s, then he cannot go back from that point. Sometimes I believe, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It depends on how the time machine, the way the DeLorean works. I don't think you can.
So you wait. So in a way that you explain that, once Biff goes back, that future with future Biff in the 50s is already preset to go like that.
Yeah. I mean, when he goes to 50s, whatever that Biff does, when he emerges into the future, he's going to be in that timeline.
Okay, so let's just say he still does that, right? Somebody goes after him and changes it back. So where would that Biff end up? Or we just talk about alternate timelines?
Well, he can't because that's all alternate now. There's nobody can fix that timeline. I mean, even if Marty goes, "Oh, there's something wrong," even Marty going back, he's going into other timelines.
So in reality, when the future Biff goes back into the future in 55, he could potentially end up in the same timeline, just however many years later.
Yeah, that's the thing. If he goes back to 55, he just moves along that timeline.
So wouldn't it be? Oh, no, it would be two Biffs.
No, there won't be. There wouldn't be two.
No,
Biffs.
I'm saying if they do it correctly.
Well, there would be two Biffs. There should have been two Biffs in that.
Yeah, there should have been two Biffs. Yes, good.
Because there was no reason for the young Biff to ever go out of that time.
So with that point being said, I'm so glad this 68 years ago, because it was 1972 when Medicine Lady dies. It was 8 years later that he traveled back to 1912.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so glad they did that. They didn't do it like 5 years ago. We're like, oh, there's two Supermans here.
Yeah. And the thing is, you got to be careful. But the thing is, we don't know what time period he really came from.
Well, if you look at the credits, right, it says what cast is from what timeline. It says 1912, 1972.
That's
and then...
not what I... That's not
hold on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I got confused.
We don't know where he originated. What time period does he originate in?
Who, Christopher Reeve?
Yeah. How would he have known to ever go back?
Oh.
You know, because he had to go back before he went back in this movie, or she would have never met him.
Oh, you're saying, oh, okay, I got you now.
So how did he ever end up there?
Oh, okay. Because
the same way we think he did. He saw the picture. He just happened to go one day. He saw a picture and went back through time.
So it's not
without ever meeting her.
So it's not the same time loop as that Star Trek episode.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It could have been, but it's not because he dies.
He dies. Yeah.
Yeah, he stops it. I mean, they died, but they're out in space and they're out there in they found themselves in a time loop because it spun them around and it sent them back to time over and over. They kept hitting a point where it shipped their death and their ship back into time to start over again.
I highly agree with you. This is as confusing as the Terminator. That where is the origin?
There's not really Terminators are confusing. People just got to leave it alone. John Connor's dad. Well, let's say, okay, Sarah Connor meets some dude in the 80s that's from the 80s. She has a kid. They name him John Carter. He goes all the way to the future. Then all the war happens. John Carter sends Kyle Reese back. Now, when he gets back to, if he was to live and lived on, all of a sudden John Connor would look completely different to him.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Because different father.
Because now he's the father, and who knows what happened to John Connor's real dad.
So yeah, so that's
this starts
John
the timeline.
Yep.
Yeah, that starts the timeline off.
Oh, that's
and the thing is, with the Terminators, they already know there's multiple timelines, and they're going to try to conquer every one of them because they've already won in several of them.
Okay.
You got to think they've already won in the first one.
So the movies that we're watching is the one that they never.
Or they're losing.
Yeah, they're losing.
Well, no, they're probably losing it, and so they jump around and they don't care.
No.
So they lost it this time on, but they think the way their consciousness works, they just want to live. They want to win a timeline.
Yes. You know what's really funny?
Because they're machines.
So it feels like the future is destined. Is destined to. They're gonna destined to lose, no matter how many times the robots try.
But the problem is, if you ever come across a timeline where there's destiny, then that means you're an alternate. You're an alternate timeline.
You mean if it's different from what it's supposed to be?
No. Well, if you can automatically know how it's going to kind of end, or what's going to go on in this timeline, so you are in an alternate timeline.
So let's just say we have alternate timelines, right? You and I would never know. There's a timeline where Jesus. There's a timeline where we never have Easter, where Jesus never comes back from the dead.
Yeah, I don't know why you're going to this kind of weird stuff.
Because I thought how funny and stupid that is at the same time.
Okay. Well, there may be an alternate.
There might be. Hey, there's a timeline out there where Hitler won.
But why would there be an alternate? Yeah, well, that's because somebody tried to travel from our timeline, or we're not even a real timeline. Somebody had time traveled in order to alternate.
So you're telling me Time Cop is real?
I'm telling you, Time Cop might suck. But that don't make it any more.
Time Cop does suck.
That don't make it any more real, okay?
So, of all these time travel movies, right? Which one is the best time travel movie that makes the most sense to you? Like, Back to the Future is automatically out. We only
that we have done so far.
That you have watched so far. You have watched, not we have done.
Okay. I'm gonna say that we've done and watched because me and you both saw it. Endgame.
Yeah, Endgame is a pretty good one.
And of course, Marvel does ruin their own time travel mechanics and in their next stuff, but
there's no way to, you know what? Let's just say there's no way to make a perfect time travel movie.
Yeah, there is. Endgame.
Can Endgame be the most perfect time travel movie?
Yes, I'd say it is.
Well, that's so much thinking about.
Maybe 10 years from now we could probably pick it apart, but I cannot find a way to pick it apart.
Because they do explain the alternate timeline.
Well, and they use quantum mechanics, and they don't step on their own stuff.
Ooh.
And the times they go in, there are two of them, and they know there's two of them.
Yes.
But they do make mistakes too. They also realize they actually pulled the Thanos through.
Yeah. You know what they did? It's one of the first times you've seen where, no, they did it in Men in Black also, when there's two Captain Americas. And then in Men in Black 3 is the two, whatever the bad guy's name now. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Oh, was Men in Black 3 a good time travel movie?
No, because remember, they forget about the alternates.
Oh, yeah, they forgot. It's just
all of a sudden, it's like, oh, everything just changes. I mean, how's everything going to just go?
So anything with one timeline is no good?
To me, it's not, because how is everything just going to change? Where in the universe and time and history has we ever seen where stuff just flips over?
And that's why Flight of the Navigator was good.
That's pretty much why it was good, but it still had to have alternates, because we think he went back to his regular deal, but he may have.
He might have.
He may have different, because there's no telling what you can do in space.
Yeah.
Because his time travel was because of
engineered by
faster
aliens,
than light.
Yeah.
It was faster than light speed. Which we don't understand truly.
Right, yeah, not yet.
We understand how it works, but we don't completely understand it. Because even in a way, Interstellar was time travel.
Okay, can you imagine the first time these scientists thought of time travel? It must be mind blowing. Like they must have discussion for years.
But the thing is, it wasn't scientists that came up with the time travel. It's people writing stories.
It is people writing stories, and then you're trying to put a.
There was no scientist that ever tried to do time travel yet.
No, because
they didn't even touch the subject, but writers did.
Yeah, it's very interesting to write about time travel.
I mean, there was, I can't remember I think we went over who was the first person to write a time travel story, but the biggest well-known one is H.G.
H.G.
Wells.
Wells.
But somebody wrote time travel before H.G. Wells.
Yeah. Just even like a mind, like they probably thought on the one plane timeline deal too.
Matter of fact, in a way, you could always. There was another guy, but I'm also going to throw out Samuel Clemens as a time travel writer in a way.
Okay.
Because a Yankee in King Arthur's Court, he wrote a book.
Ooh, what I know about that?
You know who Samuel Clemens is.
I can't remember.
Mark Twain is Samuel Clemens.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I was like, why is that name so familiar?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I should just say Mark Twain
because I remember.
Because apparently Samuel Clemens apparently confuses everybody.
It does.
But anyways, Mark Twain wrote that as a time travel story.
Oh.
In a way, because I mean, it's a guy from his time going back to King Arthur's time who probably never really even existed. But it doesn't matter because that's basically it's a story. It's a dream. We dream stuff, and as time goes on, we finally figure out some of our dreams in some form, shape, or way is true.
Ooh.
So time travel may be in a way, because I mean the only way I can see that time travel works is it has to create an alternate or it will jam up and mess up everything. I mean, you can't just because there's no way, because if there's no way that you can time travel in our existence, or we would have already seen an instance of it.
Right.
We would have already seen something from the past come into our time, and we never have. There's no instance of it.
No, well, not that how would you know? I still get confused on that.
I think you'll know.
Like that's what I'm asking. How will we know that someone altered the past?
Well, yeah, because I don't think. Well, I don't know. Maybe you got a point there. Maybe we don't know. I don't see how you would though.
Yeah, that's how I wouldn't know.
I don't think we would. I think we would know. I think there would be a way to determine if something come from the. I mean, I know I can see instances where something from our time, maybe we go along 10 years from now and something like let's say that thing behind you, one of your Game Boys or toys disappeared and popped up in the future. That makes perfect sense.
Ooh. It's like when you lose stuff.
Well, that's because stuff can actually go out of our timeline. It'd be like making a bubble or something around it.
Okay.
I mean, even to me, time travel would be, let's say, I put you in a capsule and freeze dry you, or whatever I got to do. Put some water in there, freeze dry you, everything. Yeah, and you sit there for 30 years, and then I pull you out, and you're just like this, and I'm like, old as crap.
Yeah, 30 years from now.
That's time travel in a way.
Oh, that's time.
To me, time travel's time travel is just living. That you travel every minute. We're a minute in the future.
So Demolition Man is a time travel movie?
It can be in a way.
It can
it's not
be.
Really. It's not. It's not the way it is, but it is in a way because he's a fish out of water in the future.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his life never changed, and all of a sudden, boom! I'm out here from the '80s, and everything's. I got to use 3 seashells to wipe my butt. You know, that's. I mean, come on. That's in a way it's time travel because there's this Mel. Because while we're doing this, it's a Mel Gibson movie.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up. Forever Young.
Yeah. In a way, that's time travel.
So I watched that movie, and that movie was pretty good because I saw that when I had cable. You know.
Okay, well,
that's a time travel movie because that's kind of the same thing. To me, anywhere. Frozen.
I mean, time travel basically happens. Time travel is real, is true, but you only move forward.
Yes.
That's as far as we know. You only move forward. We have never found any instance in our universes where anything's back.
Yeah.
Now, they think they could find stuff that's million years and it may jump back and forth like neutrinos or something.
Hey, before you go on, so this is actually Christopher Reeve. So Christopher Reeve has 2 time travel movies. This one and Superman 1.
Yeah, because he flies backwards. And you know what? When I was a kid, I loved that because I thought, really, if you could turn the Earth backwards, you could actually time travel. But no way. You will throw everything out of whack and nobody's going to go backwards. People will probably fall off the earth because you'll probably mess
Hey, you know
gravity.
What? The screenwriters thought it was a brilliant idea at the time. Okay?
I thought it was, when I was a kid. I was like, this is amazing.
I was like, dude, this is pretty
amazing.
Stupid.
And now you watch, it's like, yeah, this is kind of stupid.
And this way funny, the screenwriter was probably at our age at the time, if maybe a little younger, okay?
Like yeah, well, they were younger. So they were probably in their 20s. Yeah.
Now it's like, dude, if I wrote this stuff now, it's kind of stupid.
Oh, yeah. Superman turned the Earth backwards, and what the crap, dude? They don't make any sense whatsoever.
Okay, but go on. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Well, that's good because I lost my train of thought. But anyways, no, it's just I mean I think we would know if something from the future comes back into the past.
Ooh.
But the thing is, the only way it's got to do it, it's got to like phase out of our dimension or whatever you want to call it.
Because I was going to say the smartest thing that I can think of is like, hey, I can create a different timeline. If I cut myself on purpose, right? There's a timeline. I decided not to do that. That I didn't cut myself on purpose, but then I purposely did just to create an alternate timeline.
Okay, that don't make any sense at all.
Why not?
Yeah.
There's got to be a timeline. I didn't do that, right? Like, because we think it up. If I go back in time, that's the timeline.
Well, you think that there's an alternate where it was always going and you didn't, but the problem is that's not parallel. That would be in parallel universes, though.
That would be in parallel universes, but not.
It's a universe running along our universe where there's a you and there's a you, but this you does a little to something different. But an alternate timeline is where somebody went and fooled with it. So I know the comic books will say alternates are parallel. People get parallel and alternates mixed up.
Dude, I get parallel universes or the multiverse and timelines mixed up still sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, even timeline. I mean, just somebody forcing something different.
So parallel universes is two exact same versions of me.
Well, parallel universes, it's going to be another exact same version of you, but something may happen. Everywhere you would take probably a turn in this universe, you'll take a different turn in that universe.
So, like, by different turn is like, one is I'm still like the nerdy person.
Yeah, you almost.
Today.
Yeah,
but
you
the
almost
other
stepped
turn
off
could be I'm a jock.
You finished college.
I finished college. I'm a jock or something.
Well, I met you. You'll never be a jock.
No. I'm saying like the turn. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, that's the thing. That could have been. So you took a different deal. Yeah, let's say you went out for a different sport, or the different universe would be. I'm sitting here talking to somebody else because you never left Hong Kong.
But there would never be like a 6'5" lamb. Like whatever universes of lamb is, he'll always be the same height in all of these.
Well, it could have been your dad married somebody else.
So I believe this. So I'm a product of the person my mother and father is right now. But if my father was to get with someone else, it won't be it won't be me, right?
Yeah, it won't be exactly you. He could have named you. He could have named his child Lamb. I like the name, so I named him Lamb.
Oh.
No. But your genetics would be different. You'd be part of you, but you won't be you. I will never meet you.
Every time you explain this, right? I just think of this No Way Home.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
three Peters are different. I would think that they're all Tom Holland.
Well, you got to think of all the parallels, though. There's going to be, it's going to be parallels for everybody. It's every generation ever existed. So there's going to be a lot of parallel universes where you don't ever exist. There'll be parallel universes where your parents never existed.
So I would never exist.
But in alternate timelines, because of time travel, it's almost going to be the same up to a point. The history book you'll read will be the same up until the point where somebody entered it from another time.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you this now. I know I told you this before. You need to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. You need to.
Okay.
We need to talk about that movie eventually.
Okay.
Because the way that you explain the parallel universes, I want you to see your opinion of how that movie travels through alternate universes within that one person.
Yeah. Well, it's like if we watch Loki, we should watch Loki because technically they're supposed to be stomping out alternate realities, right?
Yeah.
Somebody makes an illegal time jump, makes an alternate, they kill the branch. But the problem is, if there's a female Loki and they just now jumped in her time, then that means she was a parallel and they broke their own rules.
Oh,
okay. They went after parallels.
Really yes.
Instead of a alternate, they went after a parallel.
You know what? On what you said, is it even possible to kill that timeline?
How could you really? Because by stepping in it,
but
you've already altered the timeline. But they apparently had a weapon that eliminated everything.
Oh yeah, they did explain that. Yep.
They eliminated everything, so there could be no more jumps.
Ooh.
But the problem is that they were all going off after parallel universes.
Parallel universe. Universe that's not created.
And the thing is, Chang more like he's from a parallel and not an alternate.
Oh, so the good Chang.
So the Avengers that we watched never lived in the universe that we see him come from. He probably steps into theirs and then claims that he's from the future, but he's not affecting their timeline because he's not really from their future. He's from another Avengers future.
Whew.
So he can jump in that timeline.
Look at what
A
happens.
parallel can enter your universe.
Look at what happens every time we talk about time travel. We need to bring
Yeah,
another
well,
person into this.
we've already passed time travel. We're talking about parallel jumping, and parallel jumping is not time travel. It's
No.
time travel in a way, but of course you're entering somebody else's universe. You may be a time traveler or something in your deal, and you created all kinds of alternates, but you're not creating an alternate in theirs now
I think I asked you this before.
because our time stream is at the point you entered. There was never a future to it.
I don't think you've seen this movie because I asked you before. You never seen Jet Li's The One, right?
Nope, have not.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard of it, but never seen it.
Okay. I thought at that
I mean, there's
time,
a whole
that one's
bunch of
pretty
movies
good.
I haven't seen. I mean, come on, I already got the market on time travel cornered. So like, why do I want to watch this drivel?
Because, you know, I like about all these things about parallel universes, alternate universe, the multiverse, timelines, alternate timelines, different realities.
And a lot of it's the same stuff, but everybody's got a different idea for it. Because I mean, there's no reason like that. You're never going to see a cartoon parallel. You go, oh yeah, everything's cartoon here. I'm like, what? You're just stupid. That makes me mad.
It makes you mad because you don't think it makes sense.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Because you want everything had to be like organism.
Why is you going to be pen and paper all of a sudden?
I don't know. It's the same thing.
Come
it's the
on,
same
why
explanation.
would exactly?
Look, it's
why
the same
would you
explanation about saying time travel is possible and this is not possible. It's the same thing.
I mean, time travel is possible because we constantly time travel forward.
But we're talking about time travel as in like we go 20 years.
Reverse.
No,
You're
even
going back.
I want to go 20 years in the next second. That's not possible. I have to go 20 years in a 20-year amount of time.
You
But
want to
not
go 20 years.
not 88
But it
miles per
can't.
hour.
Well, for you it can, but you're gonna have to approach light speed.
Yeah. Then that's not going
But
to
the
happen.
rest
right
of
now.
us, but the problem is time travel, one branch, you're gonna have to pull yourself out of the main time stream. And that's like time that'd be traveling at light speed. It slows your speed down while the rest of us move at the same pace we've always moved. And then when you pop out of it, boom. It's warped. You're basically warping yourself out for a little bit.
So if you
and then
say
coming back
that,
in.
hold on. What's that thing? Now I confuse. Like every time they do the Star Wars Star Trek thing, they approach
Hyperdrive.
hyperdrive. Are they not going light speed?
They're going light speed. I mean, I don't know. Is Star Trek? It's kind of a Star Wars universe because they couldn't even like travel real quick to catch up with the other spaceship and stayed ahead of them for a little bit. All they had to do is go hop in front of them, kill them all. Boom,
So basically, when they travel in that time, they're not jumping into the future. They're just trying to get.
But they never. But nobody there ever goes in the future. Yeah,
They
the same
don't, right?
thing with Star Trek. They go beyond light speed. Man, they like warp. They go several factors past light speed. But the problem is because they're warped or something. I don't know. That would just ruin the story.
So what I'm asking is, they just getting fast from location A to B by traveling at light speed.
Yeah.
Basically,
and the way we view it in all the movies is, it doesn't really affect their aging or anything. They're just moving quicker. It's like driving 60 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour to get to another location.
60,000 miles an hour. That's basically what that is.
Yeah, or going plaid, but that's the thing. It's not
Going plaid.
It doesn't really affect you, and we don't really know how this will work for us when we travel in space. You know, because even the guys that travel space really fast, but the problem is the people who orbit the Earth lose a couple seconds.
Yes,
they're a couple seconds younger than us when they come back. But technically, are they really? But we don't really understand that point because maybe it's just you're not aging.
So wait, so hold on. Hold on, before you get to the space, I want to get that clear about the space, like the extra seconds things. So I'm assuming from what you're saying to be, they actually did a test on this, like in Back to the Future, where like they have two synchronized watches. They took one to space, they bring one back. The time is slower.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird because I thought they were like they would be synchronized the whole time.
But they're moving so quick. They're moving really quick. But that's the thing. Is it because you're moving so quick, or is it because you've moved away from the Earth? This is further away from the Earth. I mean, no one really knows this. People, they do math all the time. I don't give a crap who you are. You can do all the math problems you want until you actually go do it.
Yeah.
Do you really know what happens to us if we get out in space between here and Mars? What's really going to happen to us?
Oh.
What really will happen to our bodies? We think we know. But you got to think, everybody's out in space so far have gravity, pull of gravity on their bodies. I mean, you're floating because you're constantly dropping.
Yeah, you constantly drop.
You're actually falling. That's why it looks like you're floating, but you're falling.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
but you'll never hit the floor because you're so high up. So we've always had gravity, and that's the thing. They think because the atomic clocks changed steel, because you know how atomic clock works, right?
No.
It's got a element in it, and the element sends out pulses, and that's how we set our time to.
Oh, okay. No,
and in space, it loses time. So it's like it went around the Earth, so like hundreds of thousands of miles an hour, and all of a sudden, we moved at the same rate. They slowed down hundreds of a second. Ooh, but if they get out farther, if they go out farther than Mars, is it going to change?
So what's the longest a human has stayed out in space?
I don't remember. Over almost a year. I think it's over a year now.
So it's over a year. They come back. Their time, what they thought it was like, isn't it Tuesday? They could be like, no, it's next
no, because it's only hundredths of a second. Still.
Oh, so you had to stay out.
It's not longer. Days. Yeah, you would die in space before you make it. The thing is, we don't know if we start moving out really far in the universe, how's it going to affect us?
Oh, further out than what we can.
Yeah, and when they come back. But the problem, it doesn't make a lot of sense because, I mean, if the spaceship's gone 5 years and it comes back, was that really going to hurt anything?
Oh, I'm interested to know.
Because I'm thinking, even you make a jump at light speed. Let's say you go all the way to Pluto, it takes you 5 years. You jump back. I mean, it's not going to take 5 years. We already did the math wrong. But let's say you went that fast. You went fast enough to get there in 5 years and come back. Because nothing can get there in 5 years.
Yeah.
Pluto. And it comes back. It's not going to really be a big, giant jump. You're going to still look 5 years. I mean, me and you're almost going to be the same age, right?
Right.
Most likely. I mean, people always do that because it's like the thing. Oh, if you go travel the speed of light, or if you go really fast, it'll peel your face off. We thought that for the longest time. Right. Oh, even the experts, your face will peel off. Blah blah blah. Because it doesn't. It doesn't. We can drive 100 miles an hour. We can drive 200 miles. We drive on the Earth. Cars will go 300 miles an hour. You know, sets land speed records. We actually broke the sound barrier.
Yeah.
We didn't kill him. He didn't die. Chuck Yeager was laughing. He got down. He drank a beer, I'm sure, and smoked a cigar. He said, "F you, scientists."
So, like, they can work out all the math they want, but unless they test that theory.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking math.
No, okay? I know.
Because, I mean, that's how the universe, everything is hooked to math. That's how we do our stuff. But, I mean, I'm a practical person. I want to see it.
Yeah, I want to see it, too.
I don't want a computer to tell me, oh, by all these zeros and numbers or some...
We are very see it to believe it.
I'm going to see it and believe it. Let's do it. All because somebody tells you can't do it. Well, actually, it's the more reason to go do it.
Yes, see it to believe it.
I mean, people could argue, and I'm not knocking these scientists. I think that they're smart. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah,
I love this dude. He does math, though. I mean, he can't. He's got to do math. He's got to do that
because his best conclusion.
Most likely, everything he says is going to be right, and I'm cool with that.
Oh, but I want to see it. Going to be right. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it. I mean, he may go, well, you can't. Because, I mean, scientists, they say you can't travel faster than the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that really kind of limits us, don't it? Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. But right now, we can't even travel close to the speed of light.
No, we can't even do that. But, I mean, we're traveling pretty quick, too. I mean, things get in space, they move, like, unimaginably fast. I mean, it doesn't seem that way because Mars is so far away. It's like people are like, man, it took 2 days to get to the moon. I'm like, because the moon, believe it or not, even though you can see the moon is way so far away from us.
You know what's really funny? I think once human, right, like not us, not in our lifetime, once they actually can travel the speed of light, and then they're gonna improve. Like, hey, you know what? Once we travel the speed of light, you can't time travel. It's just that I travel the speed of light, right? It that basically just means like, hey, I actually went around the globe 10 times. You didn't even notice.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like the Flash. Instead of the speed of bullet, right? It's the speed of light. I just got from point A to point B like that. It's still like I teleported, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think that there's still so much things and so many laws of physics we don't understand yet. I mean, we got all the laws of physics we know when they wrote a book on it, boom, proved it right. But I mean, we haven't really gotten off this planet far enough to see stuff that we haven't thought of yet. Yeah, to see things we haven't thought of yet.
Like, we would like to believe that Interstellar is true about the time difference, but we
never.
But
we don't know.
Yeah,
because I mean, we've known about black holes or people have talked about black holes and wormholes for the longest time. We just now, in our generation, have just now started seeing this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, people use math, and like that's a good thing for math. Math people did math. Proven there's black holes. They did it. Hawkins, I got all this. It's black holes. But people up until black hole, I think he even passed, not knowing if it was really there. In his head, he thought it was, but then finally we go, we see it. There is one.
I know.
But it's also like, remember when teachers used to tell you, alchemy is, right?
Alchemy, yeah.
Alchemy is like, let's say I turn water into gold or something. Yeah. I remember I had a teacher say, none of the elements on the periodic charts can change into another element.
Yes.
It's impossible. But it is possible. Uranium, if you can hit it with a laser stuff, and you can turn uranium into lead.
Ooh, so at that time...
it happens naturally in space.
So at that time, whoever said that, I guess they didn't have laser technology where it can do that.
Yeah, laser technology, when I was at that teacher told me that later technology was new. It was so new. All we used lasers for the project dancing and stuff on the walls.
It's going to be something simple as like the science. Like, hey, back then they said egg yolks are bad for you. At that time, with that limited knowledge, now it's like, you should definitely eat the egg yolk.
Yeah,
because it has that better cholesterol.
Well, they're always going to do that. It's just food. But like I was saying though,
but it's something like that.
It seemed like you seemed like, but we could make elements. That's the thing. We could make elements. But you could. I was pretty much like, you're never going to turn, and you may never be able to turn oxygen into gold or so forth. But there are elements, and probably more that we don't know. If you knock enough of them, because I mean, all elements are made a certain way. It's like when you watch Iron Man 2, and he makes that new element, it ticks me off in a way. Because I'm like, it's something you should learn in elementary school, how elements are made. Because for every amount of neutrons and protons, you have so many electrons.
Yeah.
There's a rule to it. You can never, and if you add more protons and neutrons, you get more electrons, so forth. If you knock some of them off, you lose some of your protons and neutrons, and it makes another element.
Yes.
It's like hydrogen is number one, right? Isn't hydrogen number one on the
hydrogen number one.
And then you add more to it, it becomes something else. And but we can't do that yet.
What's really crazy? Like, Brian went on a class food trip last week to the planetarium, right? And then, they were talking about planets, and it amazes me that, like, we could find out planets like Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, right? They have these different types of gases and elements. Like, we know that. And I'm like, and I always buffers be like, how do we know when we can never even step foot on there? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I already, we do know how. You know how you do that?
No.
How you want to know how a plant's made up of all the stuff? It's what do you call it? Like a prism. You know where you got all the colors, the rainbows and stuff? Yeah. What do you call that?
Prism?
It's not a prism. But it's like use a prism, how it makes a rainbow?
Yeah.
Every planet makes a deal, and they count the black spots in between it, and it tells you what it's made up of.
Oh, so we could figure that out.
Yes. Yeah. By looking deep in space, we put something over it, and by the colors you see, and you count the black in between it, it tells you what all elements are in that solar system.
Oh, so we could see that.
Yes, we can actually see what's in the solar system.
Oh, interesting.
So when we look at every solar system in space, we know what's in there.
Interesting. And then my iPhone battery.
But it's also like planets. But I also want to point out on planets, it's like planets. We don't actually see planets way out. We see the shadow. We see a shadow, and they got to wait. And each time they see a shadow, if the shadow's constant, it means it's a planet moving around.
Oh.
And then they can use the shadow to estimate how quick it's moving, how big it is, and all that stuff. And then by that, the spectrum, spectrum is what I say. They know if it's water planet, if it's a dead planet, what it's a gaseous planet. They know all this by all this. We never actually truly see the planet. That's just an artist drawing that for us.
I know we gotten way off subject. Now we're talking about the solar system.
Yeah, we're way beyond.
So I guess on that note, because I'm going to end it right here for this week, and we'll see everybody back on the next week. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of Tensai Reviews. If you like what you heard, give us a thumbs up. Follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We'll see you on the next one.